When the conversation of Bleach's arcs is had, a lot of the times you hear the Arrancar arc, That's Your Blow War arc, and even the Fullbring arc. And of course, how could we forget the good old reliable Soul Society arc? But you barely hear in the conversation the very first arc of the series, the Substitute Shinigami arc. Nonetheless, I recently decided to finally make my Bleach read-through from the very beginning. For context, I only have read the manga from Fullbring to That's Your Blow War, but never the arcs prior. Of course, how could you avoid the most iconic pages of Bleach with Kubo's incredible artistic skill? But besides that, I've never truly delved into the manga, but that changes with this video as I'm going to be covering every single arc of Bleach as I read through the series. And of course, we're starting with the first arc that in my eyes is the most overlooked arc of the entire story. If you expected a summary of Substitute Shinigami arc, then this video is definitely not for you, as in actuality is going to be more so organizing all of my thoughts and opinions of this arc and really looking a bit deep with what Tite Kubo actually does here in every arc after. I would definitely recommend liking and subscribing if you don't want to miss these videos, as I'll be making a bunch of Bleach content as I get deeper into the series. I want to start by saying that Substitute Shinigami arc was much better than I remember it being. Like, obviously the stuff with Ichigo and Grand Fisher and the whole inner struggle he has with his mom's death was very much ingrained in my memory with how stellar it was, but wow, reading this arc was such a breathtaking experience. Even the most dull moment of this arc for me, which was Don Kanonji in the abandoned hospital, somehow had me very much engaged, and that truly is an incredible achievement by Tite Kubo and how he managed to present every idea that takes place here. One of the many praises I have for Substitute Shinigami arc is really how much world building there truly is here. Obviously, you expect something of that nature in the first arc of a battle shonen, but as someone who has seen the end of the tunnel of Bleach and how expansive the universe of the series truly is, it's very impressive how much it really is told. Coming to this arc in the middle of seeing the That's Your Blow War anime, every single main aspect of the world of Bleach is told, like the souls getting purified, sent to the Soul Society called Holes, Hollows which get their souls purified for them to enter Soul Society, and there's still yet to be explored Hell, that is the place souls who have committed terrible sins prior to becoming a Hollow get set down there. Not to be confused with Hueco Mundo, as that isn't a place that gets talked about in this arc, and it's an entirely different place. The world building doesn't stop there, as the introduction of Ishida, who's a Quincy, really not only sets up the That's Your Blow War, but truly gives into massive context the reason as to why Soul Reapers and Quincy's are fundamentally opposed to each other, and that is in the ideology of dealing with Hollows. The Soul Reapers purify the souls of Hollows in order to send them to Soul Society, whereas Quincy's eradicate the Hollows entirely, making the souls cease to exist. This ends up upsetting the balance between the realms as Soul Society starts merging with the real world, and if merged enough, it can destroy these realms. Mind you, we don't get to see more of this stuff until we reach the That's Your Blow War, and yet the first arc of the series is already setting the stage of the conflict between the Soul Reapers and Quincy's after 1,000 years from the supposed Quincy clan assassination. That to me is absolutely incredible and gives me so much curiosity as to how far did Kubo plan ahead with the story and what were his ideas early on in the planning stage. What makes Substitute Shinigami arc different from the other arcs in the series is how episodic it feels at times, which surprisingly fits the series. Certain stretches of Substitute Shinigami focuses on a specific character or idea in order to establish the world of Bleach. The first thing you see when you open the manga is the poem "We Fear That Which We Cannot See" in the very first volume, and I truly believe this absolutely rings true when we get into the third and fourth chapter of the series, as we get into Orihime's tragic relationship with her older brother Sora, and how he unfortunately passed away in bad terms in the relationship as he then turns into a Hollow trying to kill her. Imagine being harmed by an entity you are incapable of seeing. Tatsuki, who just so happened to be with Orihime in her house, ends up getting attacked by Hollow Sora, not being able to do anything. Then there's also the moment with Chad fighting the Hollow trying to kill the parakeet with no way of being able to see it. The aspect of not being able to see the dangers of the world of Bleach plays a major role in this arc, and the second poem of the series illustrates that with "People have hope because they cannot see death standing behind them." While the idea of death and not being able to see is prominent in Substitute Shinigami arc, fate also plays a major role. The amount of foreshadowing of breaking the idea of fate and shattering through said fate is absolutely amazing. The 6th poem of the series truly goes against the idea of falling into fate and gives it a huge negative connotation. Yes, there is no fate for us. Only those who are swallowed by ignorance and fear miss a step fall into the rapid river called fate. This poem is in the same volume as we see Orihime and Chad being told by Urahara that their abilities were awakened by an Ichigo incapable of controlling his spiritual pressure, and that a figurative door has now opened for them that they can either open and go through or just keep it shut. Then there's Ichigo himself, which I've refrained from talking about so far in this video, including Rukia, as I wanted to just talk about these two characters after getting everyone else out of the way, since both of them are what makes this Substitute Shinigami arc work. Also Soul Society arc as well, but we'll get to that in the next video. From the very moment Ichigo takes Rukia's Soul Reaper powers, his life changes entirely, as instead of just being a bystander that can just see spiritual beings, which is very subtle foreshadowing as to who Ichigo's parents are in the world of the series, to now being able to fight the Hollows in order to protect those who are incapable of protecting themselves. You give this power to a guy who failed to protect his own mother and has tried their best to protect the closest to him. You pretty much now have made said guy who's supposed to be a regular human being into something much more, a Soul Reaper. However, despite that Ichigo has carried himself as any other Soul Reaper would, as he fights Hollows throughout this arc, the Soul Society doesn't view him as one of them, since he only managed to get his abilities from a pure Soul Reaper like Rukia, hence the name of the arc, Substitute Shinigami. While Ichigo grew accustomed to this very immense power and responsibility, the time was ticking for Rukia, as Soul Society would eventually catch on to her missing and a human now having Soul Reaper powers. But as that time passes, we see Rukia getting accustomed to being a human and all the relation dynamics and emotions that comes with being human. The biggest example of all, and one of the major highlights of this arc, is June 17th. The stretch in which the ideas of death and fate collide against each other and truly showcase not only Ichigo's protective nature, but also how Rukia goes from being a detached Soul Reaper that didn't pay no mind to humanity as long as she was doing her job protecting them, to genuinely caring about Ichigo in his fight against Grand Fisher, a Hollow who managed to take the lives of not only Ichigo's mom after an absolutely tragic incident on June 17, but also a plethora of Soul Reapers for 54 years. Ichigo's inner struggle of dealing with the pain of the loss of his mother after getting tricked by Grand Fisher's usual scheme with the fake girl is absolutely heartbreaking, and the atmosphere Kubo paints by using the rain is spectacular. The fact we see rain happening both the exact day Masaki passed away and also currently as Ichigo fights Grand Fisher and after fighting him grieves her is fucking incredible. Something as very subtle as the weather manages to set the tone beautifully in this very important portion of the story that gives into context Ichigo's character. Add on to the incredible art and paneling by Kubo and you have something that can barely be described in words, but rather just see for yourself. The turning point of this arc is of course the quote-unquote kidnapping of Rukia, and I put that in quotation marks because of course Rukia technically is being punished by Soul Society law, and that is her home. But at this point of the story, Rukia feels like she's no longer a Soul Reaper but rather a human after being around Ichigo and his friends and forming bonds with them. I love the conflicted feelings Rukia has, as her staying as long as she did in Karakura Town has made her question her past notions and beliefs on emotions and relationships. The play on how human Rukia has become is made crystal clear when we see both Renji and Byakuya carry themselves as they fight Ishida and Ichigo. Even Rukia herself, when she flips the switch and tries to turn Ichigo away in order to save him, doesn't even feel like Rukia anymore, even if at the start of the series she would have behaved in a much similar manner. It's the little things such as this that really has made me appreciate this Substitute Shinigami arc a lot more. Then there's there's also the relationship dynamics between the Kurosakis, which is very charming and fun to watch, alongside Ichigo's classmates as they bring a very chill, relaxing vibe amongst the chaos that takes place in Karakura Town since chapter 1. The episodic nature of this arc, mixed with a subtle overarching narrative in character progression alongside phenomenal world building and various hints for future events of the series, makes Substitute Shinigami arc, in my genuine opinion, a very fantastic starting arc of the series that manages to get you invested in the main characters like Ichigo and Rukia to get you carried over to the next arc, which is of course the highly acclaimed Soul Society arc. I cannot wait to cover that arc in the next arc review, since I'm probably going to not use a script and just purely yap because there's way too much to talk about. I don't think y'all would wait for months for me to just talk about everything organized, so I guess I just go with the flow on that video. With all of that being said though, what are you guys' thoughts on Substitute Shinigami arc? Do you love it, or you maybe aren't much of a fan of it? Leave that in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like as well as subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos from yours truly. And with that, hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day wherever you are. See you guys next time.